you've never heard of the Lantern Walk of Yarrawind, don't worry, most Australians haven't, because the last person who ever carried its flame vanished. And tonight, I'm telling you the story the town tried to forget. The story of a ritual that was supposed to protect Yarrawind from tragedy. Until 1 year, it didn't. If you enjoy mysterious stories about real traditions, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Yarrawind sits deep in rural Victoria, a quiet farming town where the red fields stretch into the horizon and the gum trees whisper when the wind passes through. Outsiders drive through without stopping, except maybe for petrol or a pie at the bakery. But locals know the truth. Yarrawind looks peaceful, because someone always carried the lantern. The tradition began over 150 years ago. Every winter solstice, just after sunset, a single resident was chosen to light a handmade lantern. A clay vessel filled with eucalyptus oil and a wick woven from kangaroo grass. The flame symbolized continuity, memory, and safe passage through darkness. But that was the official version. The one they told school children. There was another part of the ritual. One not written anywhere. Only whispered. The lantern bearer wasn't just carrying a light. They were carrying a burden. Because according to the old families of Yarrawind, if the flame ever went out, the darkness would come alive. This year, the last year the ritual was performed, the lantern bearer was a man named Elias Herring, a quiet widower in his late 60s. He had lived in Yarrawind his entire life. He made wooden toys in a shed behind his house. He always wore the same faded brown coat. And when he smiled, his eyes wrinkled in the corners like crumpled paper. Elias wasn't chosen randomly. The town's oldest families believed certain people were keepers. Folk who felt the wind changing before anyone else did. Who sensed storms a day early. Who heard when something was wrong in the land itself. Elias had been a keeper all his life. And that winter, he knew something was coming. On the solstice, half the town gathered at the old stone well in the center of Yarrawind. Kids held their parents' hands. Elders wrapped wool blankets around their shoulders. The cold was sharp enough to sting your fingers. The mayor stepped forward, carrying the unlit lantern. It was shaped like a teardrop, carved with swirling lines that traced the patterns of the wind. Inside was oil the color of amber. When the wick caught fire, a collective breath went out across the crowd. Elias took the lantern with both hands. He nodded once. Then he began to walk. The lantern walk followed a specific path. Down Wattle Road, across the iron bridge over Yarrawind Creek, up the hill toward the abandoned windmill, and finally back to town. Always the same route. Always the same order. Always alone. From the moment he took the first step, the town was silent. No one followed him. No one spoke. Because the path belonged only to the lantern bearer. Halfway across the iron bridge, the flame flickered. Just once. Elias stopped. He knew the wind of Yarrawind. He had walked this path 20 times before. This wasn't natural wind. It was colder, heavier, like something breathing out of the earth itself. He tightened his grip on the lantern and continued. But something strange happened. The trees along the creek leaned inward. Not from wind. From awareness. As if they were watching him. Elias whispered to himself. A prayer he had learned as a child. Stay with me. Stay lit. Right here, let me pause. Because what Elias saw next is the moment that made Yarrawind abandon the tradition forever. And if you're still listening and want more stories like this, make sure to subscribe right now. This channel is just beginning. Now let's continue. The windmill sat on top of a rocky hill overlooking the town. Its blades hadn't turned in decades. A rusted skeleton against the night sky. This was where the lantern bearer always paused. But tonight, someone was waiting there. A figure stood beside the windmill. Tall. Thin. Wrapped in a long coat that moved even though there was no wind. Elias's heart slammed against his ribs. He had heard stories about the Watcher of Yarrawind. A spirit said to appear only when the flame was weakening. A guardian, or a warning. He lifted the lantern higher. The figure didn't move. Instead, it raised an arm, slowly, and pointed behind him. Elias turned, and saw darkness rising from the base of the hill. Not night darkness. Not shadow darkness. But a shape. A thick, black swirl moving like smoke underwater. It crawled upward, silent, climbing the hill toward him. Elias took 3 steps back. His boot hit a rock. The lantern swung wildly. And the flame shrank to a single trembling point.
No, Elias whispered.
Not tonight. Not like this. Elias had 2 options. 1. Run back to town and warn everyone. But the lantern would go out. And everyone knew what happened if the flame died. 2. Walk toward the darkness. Keep the flame lit. Protect the town. Even if it meant not returning. He looked again at the Watcher. The figure nodded once. A gesture of grim understanding. Elias tightened his grip and stepped toward the darkness. Back in Yarrawind, families waited in square. The lantern bearer never took more than an hour. But 1 hour became 2. 2 became 3. People shifted nervously. A few elders whispered prayers. Just after midnight, the wind changed direction. A sharp, unnatural gust blowing down from a hill. And then they saw it. A faint glow coming down the road. Small, unsteady, flickering. A hush fell over the whole town. The lantern was returning. But something was wrong. It moved too slowly, too unevenly, as if the person carrying it was struggling with each step. The glow drew closer, trembling, weak. And then, the lantern fell. It hit the ground with a hollow sound. Rolled once. Came to rest. The flame still burned, tiny but alive. But Elias was gone. A search party gathered immediately. They combed the hill, checked the bridge, waded through the creek, even entered the abandoned windmill, though every man there felt a chill moving through the rafters. They found no footprints.
No coat. No lantern fragments.
Nothing. Only one man, an elder named Thomas, claimed he saw something. A shadow with height, he said. Not a person. Not an animal. Something that didn't belong. He never described it again. The flame in the lantern burned until sunrise. Longer than any lantern had ever burned before. But the town didn't relight it. Not that night. Not ever again. The tradition ended. And Yarrawind pretended nothing had happened. Years later, Elias's house was sold to a couple from Melbourne. The shed with his wooden toys was torn down. His belongings donated. His name slowly forgotten. But one thing remained. Behind the old windmill, in a hollow of stone, someone found a scorch mark on the ground. A perfect circle. Not made by fire, but by heat so intense it burned the rock itself. And inside the circle lay a single object. A wick. Woven from kangaroo grass. Blackened at the end. Still smelling faintly of eucalyptus. No one claimed it. No one touched it. But everyone who saw it felt the same thing. Elias had not run away. He had walked into the darkness so the town could wake up the next morning. And he had kept the flame alive. If you enjoyed this story and want more tales about old traditions, forgotten rituals, and the people who kept them alive, make sure to subscribe. Because next time, we are traveling to the Canadian North to uncover a ritual even older than Yarrawind's lantern. One that still happens today. And some say, it guards more than just the living.